trust is a crucial factor, of course, when it comes to any election. Where do we stand as a country, Mike?
Yeah, that's the key question, Shahan. Of course, South Africans thinking about the election as we have these by-elections across the country. We're going to look at some stats from 2019. The HSRC actually conducted this survey straight after the general election, Shahan, asking voters how they felt about the process, whether or not they actually trust the system. Let's take a look at some of these numbers. 92% of voters saying that, yes, they trusted the IEC, which, of course, is responsible for processing our elections. And 93% of voters, Shahan, saying that they believed the poll was free and fair. So some great numbers, but some interesting dynamics coming through when you look at some of the provinces. Let's take a look at that as we delve deeper into the voter's brain here in South Africa. So the question, were the elections fair? Limpopo had the most faith in the poll, 98% saying absolutely free and fair. Gauteng, 96%, Western Cape, 95%. Most of the scores were in the 90s, except for KwaZulu-Natal, 82% in KZN. Perhaps a reflection, Shahan, of some of the political division in that particular province. We know that there has been a history of political violence in KZN, so perhaps the IEC needs to work on that province ahead of the local government elections next year. Let's go back to our brain and take a look at some of the other thoughts in the mind of the South African voter. Of course, a new element, Shahan, was the address check. In other words, voters were required to provide an address, and the IEC was required to process that so that every voter was linked to a particular address in the country. Most voters were happy with the process last year. 89%, in fact, gave it the thumbs up. And then, Shahan, perhaps the most important of all, counting the votes. 84% of voters saying, yes, they had faith in that process. Let's dig a little deeper when it comes to that particular number, Shahan, because the confidence levels are quite interesting. Around about 56%, or 58%, I beg your pardon, saying that they were completely confident in the process. About 26% saying they were very confident. And then you had a various range of confidence levels in between. But the key takeaway here, just 2% of voters, Shahan, saying that they did not believe that their ballot would be counted. So pretty good numbers for South Africa. Still a large amount of faith in our system, Shahan.
Yeah, so of course South Africa has one of the world's youngest democracies, America one of the oldest, but you'll tell us that the trust levels are fairly similar.
Absolutely, and you don't need to look at data to look at some of the questions coming out from the US in terms of the trust levels, Shahan. A lot of controversy last week about that election for one reason or another. But let's take a look at some data as we go inside the American voter's brain. This is a study conducted by Pew Research Center, Shahan, and researchers asked voters whether they thought the election would be run smoothly and fairly. So this is a really scary number. In 2020, just 62% said that they thought the election would actually run smoothly. But we want to be fair to our American friends, Shahan, and remember that this was a COVID election. So there were some new things, such as the mail-in ballots, the postal voting, which raised a few concerns. So we decided to look at a so-called normal election, and that was the 2018 midterm, Shahan, just 2 years ago. The number there, 81% of voters saying they believed in the process. So when you add it all up, Shahan, very similar numbers to South Africa, and we've only been doing this for 26 years, as you said. The Americans have been holding elections for more than 200 years. So we're not doing too badly as a country. And I'm going to be a little bit naughty, Shahan, and just remind the US president of that fact. Let's take a look at this tweet. Donald Trump tweeted this in 2015. Not long before he became the American president. This is what he had to say. South Africa is a total and very dangerous mess. Just watch the evening news. Well, perhaps President Trump should watch the evening news, Shahan, because if he does, he'll see that South Africa's elections are going pretty well.